To do.
Oh, all right. We got to pay attention to our audience over here. Put that down. Welcome back to the Convo Couch, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pastor Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And we have a good show for you tonight.
We have a fire show because
yes.
we disagree on a couple things. So later on in the segment, we're going to state our positions and have a little debate over here.
You want to finish that and go on? Are you ready?
I am ready.
Well, go on then. Here we go.
Okay, so we're going to start with the proposal that Bernie Sanders unraveled this morning. He did it with Congresswoman Jayapal, Ilhan Omar, and even AOC was there to support. It's pretty awesome because this is a lot of Warren supporters were saying, oh, you know, Elizabeth Warren has a better education plan than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders back in 2016 did touch on student debt forgiveness, but he was told it was too radical. Jill Stein was the one that's been talking about student debt forgiveness in 2016. I don't know if you remember, but that was one of the things under Jill Stein. Now, Bernie Sanders unleashed this plan, and it's for the win. He is proposing a bill that's going to cancel the entire $1.6 trillion in student loan debt, escalating the Democratic policy battle, of course, with Warren, who's the only other candidate that has talked about that. I'll give her that. And basically, this is life-changing for many of us. I know I have student debt. I know many of you guys have student debt. And for me, it's not just something that affects millennials, but it does greatly affect us more. But it's also something that can help the economy. Yeah. Once we have more money in our pockets, we don't have to worry about these $500 a month or however much you're paying. Some people are paying $1,000 a month. You have more money to spend it on small businesses. You have more money to save. You have more money to buy a house. You have more money to go out on a date. You have more money to have kids, whatever. This generation is stagnant because of that. And it's
in fact, that money that would go to all these companies that hold these debts, that hold these loans, and it would go into the economy, and it would just boost the economy like crazy. And let me just say this, fam. If there's anything, if you vote for just one issue right here, this is a huge issue. This is an issue that can change a ton of people's lives. So it's like you can even wash away almost every single issue. And if you get this issue right here, it's going to change the economy. It's going to change the lifestyle of the millennials and everybody else, even myself, Generation X is going forward. You're going to change everything with this one issue.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
I'm glad we agree on that.
Of course.
All right.
Course. We agree on a lot, fam. Not on everything.
Not in this later part of the segment coming up over here, ladies and gentlemen. You can't even feel it right now. It's warm in here. We got the fan going. Johnny Tsunami's over there.
He's going to be the referee to make sure.
Oh, my Lord. He better get the whistle out. I need my buzzer. It's hot down in here. But, yes, let's continue because you got something from David Sirota.
David Sirota, of course, he is a speechwriter for Bernie Sanders. He said, when anyone says we can't afford to cancel $1.6 trillion in student debt, that's harming the economy and enriching loan servicers, remember that we recently saw a Federal Reserve bailout commitment in excess of $29 trillion for Wall Street and the financial system. So he points out...
Who gave that out?
Who
gave that, fam?
Obama.
Bush started it, and then Obama continued it. Just remember that.
It doesn't matter.
Same
Republican,
guys.
Democrats.
Yes.
Yeah. And
bailed them out.
And so if we're going to talk about bailing out Wall Street, we at least now have to bail out an entire generation of people that are in constant debt. So when people tell you that we can't afford this, how are you going to pay for it? Well, we're going to pay for it by having Wall Street pay for it. And my friend Keith Anthony Sikora posted this great thing over here where he talks about exactly we're going to raise the $2.2 trillion necessary to pay for this through public college tuition, for public college tuition free, through the and HBCUs through 0.5% tax.
Can I say something on this too, fan? And right here when you're talking about this, people go, "Oh my God, why you got to punish the Wall Street people?" Already Wall Street, capital gains tax is already much lower than the taxes the everyday common person who doesn't have money in the market pays. They have to pay less. It's like 10 to 15%. They're already getting tax breaks across the board. So adding a little tax on a small tax like this on everything traded is more than just. There's even more wiggle room right here than what Bernie's even asking for. I think Bernie's being he's really compromising with Wall Street when he asked for this right now. And what is this? It's not like we need a natural resource to get us out of student debt.
No.
I mean, why don't the Federal Reserve just print the money and just give it to the bankers anyways? We don't even need that if you're technically speaking. But anyways, go ahead.
And it's going to have the 0.1% fee on the bonds, the 0.005% fee on the derivatives, and an inclusive prosperity tax, which he has introduced earlier. So in order to kind of explain this a little bit, Bernie Sanders did a live stream today, early this morning at around 8 o'clock, and he spoke about how the system has changed against this generation. It's not in favor anymore of how it used to be. Johnny, I don't know what happened with the first one. What is the first timing you have? Yes.
240.
Okay, so
Johnny got it.
Let's start that one.
Johnny Tsunami on the spot. Thank you very much.
10 years ago, the United States government bailed out Wall Street after their greed, their recklessness, and their illegal behavior drove us into the worst recession in modern history. Today, the major Wall Street banks are larger than ever. Their profits are soaring, and their CEOs receive huge compensation packages. Our proposal, which costs $2.2 trillion over 10 years, will be fully paid for by a tax on Wall Street speculation, similar to what exists in dozens of countries around the world. The American people bailed out Wall Street. Now it is time for Wall Street to come to the aid of the middle class of this country. This Wall Street tax will have the added benefit of controlling Wall Street recklessness and reducing the likelihood of another major economic crash. In 1944,
Great. Did you want to?
Yeah, can I just say some hi real quick to people? I got to say hi to Rocky Bellinger.
Hey, Rocky.
Rocky B, we got a shirt coming for you. Give me your address. We'll send it out to you. We love you. Gregory
message
Mallard.
your address, please.
Yes, thank you, please. Steve Wolbrandt, we have a shirt for you as well. Thank you for joining. James Brennis, my good friend, the Republican from San Francisco. He's on. Also, Gabriel Ramirez, thank you for your contribution yesterday, sending us that few bucks. Every dollar helps right
Absolutely.
now, and any money you give us, we go and we put it into work really quickly at the MCSC network. Go on over to the Convo Couch YouTube. Help us out. A lot of you did so yesterday. Continue to do so again. Alt Jesus, hello. Vicky Corallan. Dana Fairbanks. We love you, Dana. I always pay attention. I see when you're around. Bad Mama. Mike Brennan. Smith, Mr. Orchie. Yasmin Awale. I'm sorry for being so loud, Johnny. And on the Convo Couch YouTube, A. Mares. Smith is over there too as well. Thank you so much. Fam, give us a little bit more about this Bernie love. What's going on here now?
So, I mean, it was pretty self-explanatory. He pretty much talked about how, we bailed out the banks 10 years ago. Now it's our turn. In the next one, he gets a little bit more in debt on how the Pell Grants and the GI Bill made education virtually free before. But ever since then, we've gone from 80% coverage of tuition when a few years ago when people like Bernie Sanders could go to school for virtually free to only 30% of Pell Grants covering 30% of tuition. So,
yeah. Remember we talked about that too, fam, that it took a summer job to pay for a year of tuition when our parents went to school. Now it takes 18 summer jobs, if you can find the summer jobs, to pay for
That's
1 year.
hilarious.
I mean, literally, so it means in 72 summers, if you work 72 summers, you can pay off your student loan debt. So if you start working when you're 16, you only have to live to 88. And then you pay off your debt and you go into that pie in the sky. Go to the next point, Johnny. I'm sorry.
results of federal and state higher education cutbacks. Today, the average college senior graduates with about $30,000 in student debt, and 1 out of 6 seniors will graduate with over $50,000 in debt. The situation is even worse for African American and Latino families. And at a time when we desperately need more doctors and dentists and nurses, those who are graduating medical school and dental school and nursing school are finding themselves in some cases with $300,000 or $400,000 in debt. And here is a sad truth, another sad truth regarding this whole crisis. Many students are dropping out of college, not getting their degrees, and yet they still find themselves with tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Let's be clear. The millennial generation was told that the only way they would get the good jobs available as if they received a college education. Unfortunately, that turned out to be bad advice. It was wrong. Since 2000, the cost of attending a public college has nearly doubled. Meanwhile, the bottom 60% of college graduates earn less money than those who graduated college did 19 years ago. And wages for the average college graduate have stagnated. Today, 34% of Americans 25 and older have a college degree, but only 26% of them in our country, 26% of those jobs require a college education. The result is that many millions of young people today are forced to work at low-wage jobs. Their standard of living is going down while they're struggling to pay off their outrageously high level of student debt.
Fair.
So, as you can see, Bernie is the only person that I've honestly seen really focus on the millennial generation, like specifically say, you guys were lied to, you guys were bamboozled, you guys were told that this degree was going to, guarantee you at least a decent paying job, and that's just not the case. That's just not been the case. Again, I can't tell you how many people I know who have even multiple degrees and can't find jobs that are paying them fair wages. And that's just a result too of the system and the way the system is, to where small businesses cannot afford to pay that much because corporations are pretty much pushing them out. So again, this is a whole economic issue. This isn't just about people having not having student debt. And Ilhan went on Twitter later on and she was talking about what would you do if you had money like available that you didn't have to spend on student loans. Like, yeah. And it's such a freedom that it would give millions and millions of people, and the economy would, unlike Republicans and some of these establishment third way centrists who have been attacking Bernie now because of this, say it's going to actually help the economy.
Yeah, well, we can go deeper down the rabbit hole when it comes to a monetary system. But when you ask the question, what would you do if you didn't have that money? It's the same expenses. It's a different expense that our parents didn't have to have. You know what I'm saying? They never had that expense. It wasn't draping on them. It wasn't hanging over them. There weren't 1,000 robocalls from Navient hounding them for money. There weren't the IRS grabbing your freaking income tax checks because you owe money to these greedy people who lent out these loans, these bankers and whatnot. So it is something, if you did have it, where would that money go? It would go into the economy. And I just want to say, fam, I love Ilhan. She's savage. She's right up there with my top favorite politicians right now.
She is amazing.
She is amazing. What she did about calling out AIPAC is so deep, so hardcore, and so necessary, fam. Because like we talk about, everything's connected. It's all one big friggin' plan. It's about the bankers and the monetary system and the slaves.
And she's great on foreign policy, too.
And she's amazing on foreign policy, unlike
she's
someone
like... She's the best one out of all of them on foreign policy. And I like Jayapal, too. She's been a progressive for a while in Washington State.
Yeah, but
she didn't. I know she's got her thing, but I mean, really, like overall, she's helped introduce this legislation. Which, by the way, I wanted to go ahead and point this out because I know people are going to wonder. Elizabeth Warren's plan falls short because Elizabeth Warren's plan is only up to $50,000, which literally doesn't cover hardly a lot of people have way more than that. And it's also, this plan includes higher education. Even if you want to get a master's degree, this is including that. So not only are people already saying, wow, oh my God, if this happens, I can go back to school and get a degree, or I can go get my master's degree, or I can go get a PhD. People are excited. This is life-changing.
Education is information. And by the way, I'm sorry, Austin, it's APAC. Did I say APEG? APAC. my tongue gets caught. Let's get to the next part, Johnny Tsunami. People are sending you love on the stream over here. At least Rocky B is.
Rocky's always love.
He went over to the YouTubes.
For-profit education, and by that we also mean for-profit student loan debt as well. This is such an important issue because this is not just about our future generations and our current generations, but this is about our entire economy. We are experiencing a systemic and economy-wide threat to grinding our economy to a halt because families and people in my generation, older and younger, are not buying cars, we're not purchasing homes, we are not building families because of the scepter that student loan debt represents on our generation. It is unjust and it is a burden that no generation before had to encounter to the scale and the level that ours has. I think so much about this moment when I was in college, and I was mentoring this girl, this young woman. Her name was Andrea. She was about 3 or 4 years younger than me. Yes. But I was about 19 years old, and she was in high school. And she had gotten into all of these prestigious universities, but she was given no student loan assistance, she was given no scholarships. All of her student aid was presented to her in the form of loans. And she came from a solid middle-class family. She was not exceedingly wealthy, and so she got into her dream college, but her dream college offered her no scholarships, just loans. And she truly felt, at 16, 17 years old, she felt that the decision of college was so important that she felt that she needed to consider taking on $250,000
You don't have to bring it up or read it.
Of debt. System. That alone illustrates it.
Okay.
You there?
Okay.
It went out. The audio went out on the stream. But what did she say, fam? We're talking about.
Well, basically, she was basically like echoing like the whole point of the fact that millennials are the number one. We have like, this is unprecedented. No other generation has faced these issues, and it's not just an issue of the student loans. It's an issue of not being able to start families, not being able to buy a house, having to like choose between saving money for your future and paying your student loan. And she recognizes that this is such a bigger issue than that.
Yeah.
And I love that she talks about how this one girl she used to tutor when she was in college, and I did the same thing as well. And she, they expect you at 17 years old to not be able to vote. They expect you to not be able to drink, but they expect you to make the choice of taking hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan in order to go to college. So.
Okay, so let me just say this much, fam. We're talking about, you know what this is? It's modern day slavery. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it is. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to come in the form of shackles and handcuffs and whips and chains, which was disgusting and awful, but it comes in the form of you're financially structured and set down for life. We don't have choices. We have to work 2 or 3 jobs. We were talking about today how I had to sleep in today because I had to work these whole weekends. I would have loved to take an extra day off, but I know if I don't work a certain amount of time, I can't pay rent. I can't buy food. So I am subjected to working as much as we can, especially with the show. We're trying to do the show, but we got to run off how many times, and we have to work. We're slave to the monetary system, whether we like it or not. And anyways, Elizabeth Warren, one more time. Do you want to show this tweet?
Yeah, I'm just going to show my tweet, which got a lot of a lot of traction on Twitter because I basically laid it out. Elizabeth Warren's plan is, I have a plan to cancel student loan debt up to $50,000. Bernie Sanders introduces proposal with 2 progressive congresswomen who happen to be 2 of my favorites to cancel all student debt. And then the establishment is constantly saying, how are you going to pay for it? With the blood of your rich bosses on Wall Street, which is basically what Bernie Sanders said. They're going to pay for it. They're going to pay for it. And he's completely emphasizing that. Another thing that we didn't see in the video that he emphasized is Bernie Sanders believes in universality. One of the questions the media asked him is, why won't people who are already rich, why shouldn't they not get free? Why should they get free tuition? And I agree with Bernie on this. I'm also someone that believes in that. If we're going to make our country a country that just it's equal, we should just have college for all available. It doesn't matter if Trump wants to send his kid to university for free, okay? Because otherwise it's just not equal. And I agree with Bernie. It's just, if you want to go to a public university for free, go ahead. And I think that's the best way to do it, and it's the best way where there's no questions asked and just everybody can just go, and that way it's not an elitist kind of thing. as well.
Well, the whole thing is if it's only $50,000, then if you're a poor person and you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, you're going to be strapped down
Right,
crazy.
it doesn't matter.
You're going to be, if you want to do something really, really positive other than just a basic college education, you're really going to have a hard time. And it's going to be really taxing and struggling on you to even get there. You might even kill yourself before you even get there and stuff.
Absolutely.
Look, can I say the hi to some people on the thread before we get to this next one? Because it's about to get really, really, really crazy in here. Spark Iskra says, that's not true that millennials are, it's winning on a thing. That's not true that millennials are the first generation to deal with this. I'm a Gen Xer, and I have a mountain of debt that I'll ever pay for. I had to go through the same issues in the 80s and 90s. I'm a Gen Xer with you,
Can
too.
I answer that?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Nobody said we're the first generation to deal with it, period. But we are the generation that's dealing with it at an unprecedented rate. It is now much more expensive to go to school than it was even 20, 10, 30 years ago. And it absolutely is. And you have to borrow more money. And even now, trying to go to school now is even more expensive than when I went. And so it's this thing where we don't have to feel like butthurt about who suffered more. That's not the point. The point is this generation is the one that has unfortunately been stagnant. People complain we don't go to Applebee's, we're not having kids, we're killing the industry. It's like
Avocado toast.
we're killing everything because we don't have the money to go and do things like normal people do. And even the people who do have some money don't have nearly the amount of money that someone with their degree back 20 years ago would have had.
Okay.
And that's a fact.
Choctaw Warrior says, and this is a good one, I think the word you're looking for is pyramid skin pasta, not slavery. You're splitting hairs right now. I don't know if it sounds better. Fine, whatever. We're forced to work, otherwise we will be out in the street. We're forced to go to work, otherwise we won't have electricity. Like Reverend Barber says, so we're all dark when the lights go out, and that's what we're facing right now. We have to do certain things, and it's middle America. There are 19 people watching on the YouTube in the CONVO couch, what I love to see. 100% agree with you, Fee, says Rocky Bellinger. Bingo, whether you believe it or not, Rocky's agreeing with us. He loves us. He's one of our number one fams. And Amar says, ridiculous. I'll try anything right now at this point. And he also says, when I went to college, it was like $3,500 a semester. Today, it's like $12,000 for the same schooling. And the education itself is not even equal to what it was back then.
Not at all.
Steve Woolbrand over on the Facebook says, 48 hours to the debate. Yes, it is, Steve Woolbrand, which will bring us into our next subject right over here. We've been talking about this. Fam, let me just start off. Let's get Tulsi's tweet up on here. What he said.
And we discussed this yesterday. But Pasta wants to go in it again because he's changed his
because
mind.
I don't even know if I changed my mind. More evidence has come to light, and I've gone to dive into this. Me and Johnny Tsunami were up really till early in the morning going over this, whatnot. Let's read the tweet off from the beginning again. It says, Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris. Joe Biden did not celebrate or coddle segregationists. Let me stop right there. She should have put in New York. Okay, I know it might be very simple, but she was referring to what Joe Biden said a couple days in New York. Yes, back in the day, I believed it. We said it yesterday on the show that Joe Biden did coddle segregationists to get this incrementalist kind of policies pushed. Segregationists back in 1977, so you can't say he didn't coddle it. But she was referring to what he said the other night in New York. So let me just point that out. It's a bad tweet in that sense, fam. But let me get into it. His critics have unfairly misrepresented his important message to score cheap political points. I agree with Clyburn and Joe Biden. In order for Congress and the president to get things done for the American people, there needs to be civility in Washington and in the country. The ability to work with those we disagree with, even those who hold some views we abhor. Did I say it right, fam? I love it. In order to Congress to work for the American people, we need to find common ground with each other. That is not possible without civility. We need another president who is going to continue to divide our country. We need a president who will unite us. United we stand, divided we fall. Now, fam, let's kind of get into this right now because we kind of talked about this yesterday. And once again, we were upset because, number one, it's the person that she said that she agrees with, and it's Joe Biden. In the same sense, she said Joe Biden and Jim Clyburn, which is talking about this time. Now, let's take a look at what Joe Biden said. And me and Johnny watched this, 2 or 3 times last night?
To what she's directly referring to.
Exactly.
Which I disagree with you. I do feel like she is coddling him.
Well, let's take a look.
The former vice president under fire after citing the work he did with segregationist senators as an example of the civility that used to exist in Congress. Speaking at a fundraiser in New York City Tuesday night, Biden told the crowd this. I was in a caucus with James O. Eastland. He never called me boy. He always called me son. Herman Talmadge, one of the meanest guys I ever knew. Well, guess what? At least there was some civility. We got things done. We didn't agree on much of anything, but we got things done. But today, you look at the other side, and you're the enemy, not the opposition, the enemy. We don't talk to each other anymore. Many 2020 contenders, including Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris, quickly responded to Biden's comments.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to talk? You want to see the comments they made and stuff like that? Do you want to talk about that first, or you just want to talk about that?
Let me just talk about this first.
Okay,
First
go
of
ahead.
all, if you are a politician like Joe Biden and you make a statement like that, that is a racist statement. Of course he didn't call you boy. You're a white man. Boy is a term that is used by white men to refer to black men in that derogatory way. Is the term boy. That is racist. That is backward. That is something he needs to apologize for. Are they manipulating Elizabeth Warren and Harris? Absolutely. We know this. They do this all the time. They're manipulating it. Was Cory Booker genuine? I believe Cory Booker was genuine in the fact that that bothered him. But I still feel like there's a manipulation. Now, to say that we can work with the other side across the aisle, absolutely. We can work with Republicans as much as we want. But there is a line to be drawn when it comes to segregationists. And if you don't draw that line, you are part of the problem. And I don't think that you can say, well, we got things done. We got segregation done. Okay. Like, I'm sorry. There's a line that you draw to whom you work with. And I believe her statement, though taken out of context, absolutely, should not have been made and should not have been made in defense of specifically that, because that in itself is a very racist term, and he should apologize for it, regardless of how I feel about Warren, regardless of the manipulations of the Democratic Party, regardless of anything. I'm sorry if I am a black person in America, which I'm not. I'm definitely going to have a different point of view than people who are clearly dismissing it.
Yeah. Okay, so most of the people who look at the polls, and they talk about the polls right now, they talk about how Biden has the support of black voters in the South because he has the Obama shield, whatnot. And I just want to say something. He was talking about the way things were back in 1977. And I understand where you're coming from. It's different nowadays. But the way things were back in 1977 were different. And he was simply stating the fact, his relationship, how they were talking back and forth. And I understand where Cory Booker's coming from. And I still think it's a far cry from the people that he was dealing with. He was trying to get this. And once again, I think we have to dive into the policy, whatnot. It wasn't like Joe Biden was completely standing behind these people's policies.
He absolutely was.
He was trying. First of all, we have to look at the policy.
He was absolutely standing behind them. He was absolutely.
So you have the
behind
bill. What is the bill?
What are you talking about?
What
It was
bill
the
are we
letters
talking
on the
about?
segregation.
I
He was
understand
talking
that.
about that.
But once again, there are people who are saying that he was trying to get other issues passed incrementally and still coddling these people to get these certain things done. It was still the opposing party.
It's still the line you have to draw.
Okay, I understand, but it was 1977. And it was a totally different time.
It just comes off like it's being excused. And
It's 1977. Schools were segregated in when? The 60s and whatnot? It was a different time. You know, so when you have to get in there and get things done, and once again, I don't want to be on the point of supporting Joe Biden, and he needs to learn how to fucking talk. I'm not saying that. Joe Biden is a warmonger, whatnot. But
Joe Biden is a racist, and it's very clear. It's very clear. I mean, the crime bill, Anita Hill, we could go on. And I'm not going to focus on even
by
his,
that
his
mentality.
Words.
Everybody has racist policies.
A lot of these people have. I agree.
And then in that case, when Bernie signed off on drone strikes, he had racist policies he stood behind. You know what I'm saying?
That's not the same comparison, though.
What do you mean? If you're talking about bombing people of color across the way, it's a racist policy.
You have to specify what
policy.
bill, because when he did that, it was in order to get something else.
I understand. And that's what Joe Biden is saying, he agreed with segregationists to get other stuff done. I'm not going to agree with that. But once again, I'm just saying it's 1977. But let's get back to Tulsi and her mentality on this, which he was talking about. And this is the thing. We have to stop censoring speech of some sorts. You know what I'm saying? Hate speech is different than when you're just having intellectual conversations.
That's not an intellectual conversation.
What do you mean?
Saying he did not call me boy is not an intellectual conversation.
But that was the part that was wrong. And I'm not saying that. Like I said, he had to learn how to speak. But the main issue, what he was talking about, is having conversations with people who disagree with you. And that is the main issue we're dealing with right now. Anytime people disagree with your thought process, they call you a racist. You said so yourself.
Yeah, of course.
They label you whatnot.
Absolutely.
It's okay to get in there and have some conversations that you might have to, like, for instance, when Ted Lieu attacked Candace Owens about Hitler. And he was trying to make this line and saying, oh, you're a Hitler. You're a Hitler sympathizer, when she was talking about Hitler's goals and what she thought they were. So they attacked her just for simply mentioning Hitler herself. And now they're attacking it the same way. The main thing about what was said, and Tulsi said it, none of these people really gave a screw damn piece of shit a care about anything. When Obama was making Biden the number 2 most powerful man in the world, but now all of a sudden you want to take this right here, and you want to use this for political gain. Kamala Harris of all fucking people, and all I'm saying to me is, I think that, really, to tell you the truth, from what was said and how it was said, Tulsi's playing the rope-a-dope.
I disagree. I don't think that was the right move at all. I think it was a bad tweet. I think she shouldn't have said that. I think it really hurt her. As far as some progressives, I think it might have gained her some Republicans or independents, but she's running in the primary right now. She's not trying to win the general right now.
So you think it could have gained her some Republicans and independents? What about Biden supporters?
No.
When Biden drops out, where do they go?
They don't like her regardless.
I don't know. You said on the thing yesterday, I think you said the people were scratching their head going, oh.
Yeah, they're scratching their head.
Well, let's look at what this guy put on our tweet from yesterday, fam, because you disagree with this.
Yeah, I disagree with him.
Let's put this up here. Can you read this for me?
No, you read it.
Damn, it's small. I agree with... hold on a second. Let me clean my glasses.
Here you go. No.
Thank you so much. Here you go. I agree with most everything said on the cast, which is yesterday. However, I disagree with the point. It's politically smart or not. I happen to believe it was ultimately a smart move for her. She's the only candidate to open direct bridge to Biden voters. She didn't ratioed. What's that say? She didn't get ratioed? She didn't get rationed?
Rationed.
Okay, and her follower count has went up by the hundreds, and it's still climbing. So even though she might have lost some progressive votes, she gained a lot of cred with moderate, liberal, and conservative voters. Tulsi is apparently proving you get more done with money than spit. Let's also acknowledge one thing. Biden's shield is the Obama's legacy. That's why Bernie and Tulsi have been more measured when they deal with Biden. Tons of Democrats are still in denial about how bad Obama years were actually were. Excuse me. No amount of airing dirty laundry has made Biden voters budge to any other candidates. I've just seen no evidence of that. However, Tulsi's alternate approach seems to be making the most impact with Biden voters. Listen, I'm just curious, fam. I would like to go out there and see some data and said, if you're a Biden supporter, who's your second choice? I don't know what I'm saying politically, and what this guy opened my eyes to, I was like, wait a second, I never even thought about that. And I started thinking about everybody, and we talked about it, Johnny, right? We talked about this yesterday. We said, why are these Democrats, the establishment Democrats, attacking each other? They all want that money. They're fighting over the same money. It's just like what happened with the Republicans. Jeb Bush got the money first, then they gave it to Marco Rubio, then they gave it to, what's his name, your boy, Ted Cruz, and then eventually Trump beat them all. So they're jockeying for this money, and I don't know.
No one is denying that this is not they're not manipulating this for politics. That said, trying to defend his statements there is wrong. And I criticized Tulsi just like I criticized Bernie when he said Joe Biden is my friend, or when he said that I don't think Joe Biden is a racist. I disagree with both of them, and I will tell them that to their face, because to me and to many people, not based only on what he said to Cory Booker at all, but I've been talking about Joe Biden and his problems with the crime bill, Anita Hill. Everything he has done has hurt millions of people of color. And when you stand there, and even if she didn't mean to defend his actions, which I genuinely believe she's not going to, again, put him on her cabinet, or she's not going to go crazy defending him and stand by him. I don't believe she's going to do that. I don't think Bernie Sanders is going to do that. But even just to say something like that without clarification and without having the mentality that maybe if I'm a black person in America or a person of color in America, and I see you defending, even if it's my perception, even if it's not reality, perception a lot of times is reality. And it just does not come across like someone that is thinking about how black people in America have had to endure this under this system. And it really just comes across as completely glossing it over. And I know my brother Nico said this morning. She's a woman in Hawaii. She probably hasn't had to deal with that. And I get it, and I'm not one to go into identity politics. I freaking hate them. But at the same time, I just genuinely feel like that was the wrong take. And again, I think there should be something said.
Well, if it's an apology towards black people, like you said, or people of color, I can understand that. I don't think it was a jab at black people, whatnot. I think she was kind
Well,
of...
I don't think she meant to do that,
No,
but that's how
well,
it can
yeah.
come across.
And once again, when it comes to like calling Bernie, he says, "Oh, Bernie, Joe Biden is my friend" and stuff. I don't care. I'm so sorry. All I care about is this politician's push for their ideology, push for their policies, and what they're going for. I don't care if he calls Joe his girlfriend. I don't care if he calls him Susan. As long as it helps him sign on the dotted line, then so be it. Now, we have a super chat here, and I hear what you're saying, whatnot. Pasta, please give me some examples of progressive policies that racist Repubs reach across the aisles to support. Seems like an excuse for Dems to compromise. Well, how about when the Republicans stopped Obama from cutting into Social Security, whatnot, back in the days? Remember when Bernie was protesting against it? I mean, listen, I don't want to give examples and say these people are doing any work. And Nico did make a great point. When you reach across the aisle, what are you really promoting? What are you fighting for?
Right, because that can mean reaching across the aisle and giving in to segregationists,
Yes.
which is what happened. That's not reaching across the aisle
Yes.
to accomplish compromise, and that's the difference I see in that statement. And I don't agree that statement is something that he should go on and not apologize for. I think it shouldn't have been this whole giant thing where Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris get involved because we know they're using it for political points, and that's the part of Tulsi's statement that I agree with. And I'm not gonna crucify her for it. I'm not crucifying Bernie for it either. But I am thinking that she shouldn't have made that statement, and I think it did hurt her a little bit. And I think that it was I can't find the word that I'm looking for. It was kind of just not looking at how other people would feel, especially some of her supporters who are of color that commented yesterday on that they didn't feel comfortable with it because it felt tone death. That's what I'm looking for. Tone death to their situation. Yeah. And I think that's something that you can't just gloss over and say, oh, we just need to focus on policy. Yes, absolutely. We need to focus on policy, of course, but we cannot just forget how sometimes our words do affect people. And I always look at actions over words, which is why this is, to me, it's not as big of a deal. But at the same time, we also have to look at how that's going to be perceived in the general scheme.
And, once again, we don't like Biden over here. I mean, Fam can even defend me over here. She knows I don't like Biden. When I caught up with Norman Solomon, I love to get on all that stuff and talk to him. And that video is on our YouTube page, so please go ahead and check it out from the convention. It's great. I don't like Joe Biden at all. But once again, I think if you take this statement, what she made, this tweet, and you kind of apply it, take it out of politics and apply it to people in the country, in the world and stuff like that. We have to understand that there is a culture of like, oh, you can't say that. Right. And when you say you can't say that, you're actually adding towards the censorship, towards the actual cause of like getting people to follow and get in line.
I agree with
you. And you know what I'm saying? And that's what the whole thing is. And that's how the mainstream media operates. You can't say that. You can't have those nuanced conversations. If you say this, you're a racist. If you say this, you're a sexist. Where I think we have to find some common ground to say, hey, we have to have these conversations. We have to have these tough, nuanced conversations to get to where we need to get to.
And she could have absolutely said that without saying the first part and defending Joe Biden. She could have said something like what I said, like we need to stop calling everybody a racist. We need to have these conversations. We need to do this. And reaching across the aisle, by that I mean we need to talk to people we don't agree with, which is something she does.
Isn't that the main problem though, fam?
But she didn't just say that, and that is my entire point on that.
But isn't that the main problem is what I'm trying to get at is the fact is that we keep labeling and demonizing people and stuff, and then we don't have these conversations. And this whole thought process that we can't do business with people we don't like, or we don't like the way they speak, or we don't like their ideology is ridiculous, because the only way to get things done is to work with people we don't like. As a business person, how many times do we do things and deal with people that we can't stand? But we smile, we grin, and we bear it because it's the best. We're going to play this Tulsi video real quick because I think it was a great video, and then we'll follow up with the super chat. But this is what Tulsi's message. This was another play on her message, and it's 7 seconds, but it's like, hey, fuck all the bullshit distractions. Let's get to the issues and talk. And when it comes to Elizabeth Warren, when it comes to Kamala Harris, when it comes to Cory Booker, they can't attack Joe on policy. You know why? Because they're in line with that policy. So they take a cheap shot on Adam right here, and they use this right here. It's it's a difference if Nico House was giving Tulsi shit than Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, and Cory Booker giving Joe Biden shit. They have no business. Fam, get that Tulsi up there.
Let's set aside the politics and talk about what's real.
Okay. Ruben Masagwa is going to go after me right here and saying it was a different time as a defense, as saying it's all lives matter against Black Lives Matter. I don't think.
Thank you.
I disagree with that.
I absolutely
sir.
agree with that. It's a privileged point of view to have, and I think that again, I agree with Tulsi. I agree that it's a cheap shot. I agree that they're manipulating the situation. I 100% stand by you on that. But I also think that just kind of washing over that and pretending like that didn't happen. And I agree we need to get things done and look at policy, and that we're all hurting under this capitalist oligarchy, under this system. I agree with the fact that it's an economic thing, but we cannot overlook the concern that these people have endured throughout the years and recently. And when you say things like that, what Joe Biden says, and even Tulsi's first part of her tweet, it makes us feel and other people feel that you are completely ignoring that plight, that you are completely glossing it over.
This is always going to be the hard part. And it's like when I say, it's like, well, what do I have to say something and I have to have a disclaimer with it and whatnot? And, it's introducing the mechanisms. And I understand, fam. And that's where this comes. This is where this dance comes from. And I think Tulsi learned a lot from it here. But once again, I still think that politically, Rocky Bellinger said, Pasta, I hope she's doing the rope-a-dope. Rocky, after everything I saw last night, we went down the rabbit holes. We started looking at this stuff some more. We constantly watched Joe Biden's his speech, what he said, to say, is he really, in this particular point, when Joe Biden was talking, was he really coddling and celebrating those people at that moment?
I wouldn't say he was celebrating, but I would say he was and kind of minimizing what they said, which was extremely offensive and racial. And then she defended that, so she is defending him.
Yes.
And so then that's just, to me, the wrong take to have, and I don't agree with it at all.
Ruben, I just want to point out that I do believe that Black Lives Matter, because I do believe that all lives aren't equally at risk. And that's why I believe in that, whatnot. However, when people, I think that the term that Blue Lives Matter bothers me a lot more than all lives matter. Like, it might be equal, but when people go, oh, Blue Lives Matter, that's really a shot to when some people were saying, all lives matter, don't they? And I think there's a group of people who are saying that to we really focus on them to kind of counteract the Black Lives Matter, because I believe they're both a proper message. But I do believe there are people in the mainstream who don't understand it completely and think that all lives matter is just okay to say it, which I don't, especially if you're using it to combat Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter to me is a positive message. It's not being negative, saying, hey, our lives matter. Okay, it's proactive. Let's fix the problem, And I let you read something yesterday from Armin. I haven't seen him on the thread today. I want to give a call, and you said you agree with Armin. I was like, wow, the way he kind of puts things, the way we're all getting deceived.
We are.
The way we're all in this. Oh, Ruben also says, I'm not accusing you at all, Pasta. Much love. Ruben, you didn't have to spend $2 more to tell us that.
Thank you, Ruben.
We love you, Ruben. And don't get me wrong. And as we continue to do this, me and fam have made a point to get into these chats because we want your opinions. We want to talk to the people.
We want to hear from you.
You know what I'm saying? We learn stuff. That what we put up today was on our YouTube comments. And Johnny came running up right when it was posted. And I was like, wow, strategically, politically, fam, we didn't talk about this real quick. Politically, guys, do you think it was a good move to somewhat align yourself to get those Biden votes after? If you're a Biden supporter, if Biden drops out first, who do they go to?
They would go to Warren. They would go. I mean, I did not see any Biden supporters at the convention cheering for Tulsi. The only people I saw, the only people I saw cheering for Tulsi were, Tulsi has older people who support her.
She does. Shut up. Be quiet.
But you know what I mean? I just don't think that. No, I think they're just gonna ignore that and continue supporting Biden. That's it. I think it actually hurt her.
I think a lot of older people that are pissed off right now at these kids taking shots at them might go over to Tulsi after Biden drops out.
Do you want them to go over to Tulsi though? Do you want that kind of support? Like, I mean,
what do you mean?
But they're not going to. But I'm just saying, like, do you want that kind? I
don't give a shit.
Then that doesn't classify her as a progressive, and ultimately it hurts her because if you're being supported by being supported by centrists in the third way?
Listen, I don't give a shit. Listen, she's got Trump voters already supporting her. She's got independents voting for her. Her ideologies are her ideologies. Who votes for her is another different thing. I don't give a damn about that.
But
I'm not going to start measuring the credibility of the voters itself. I'm looking at but I am thinking about the optics of my candidate, which is rope-a-dope, Tulsi Gabbard. She's playing the rope-a-dope. She's setting these kids up. She went right after Elizabeth Warren. Do we have our flyer ready, Johnny? She went right after Elizabeth Warren because you know what's the key matchup on Wednesday night? Take a look, ladies and gentlemen. Tulsi versus Warren. Steel cage match.
And let it be clear that I support Tulsi over Warren based on policy. Absolutely, 100%. I think she is awesome. I don't think she's definitely not a racist at all. I don't, but I disagree with her tweet. I think it was a bad tweet. I stand by that. And, I completely disagree that it was the only benefit she might have is getting other people to think of her. Oh, maybe, she's a little bit more center headed. But I think as far as getting the progressive support, I think that's definitely going to be a challenge.
What other point do we make these establishment Democrats get back out to bay? Not just to falsely or just like, what's the word I'm looking at? Just all these stupid attacks that have nothing to do with policy. They're all gaslighting, platitude attacks that really have nothing to do with policy whatsoever. Was there anything in Tulsi's policy, which she said in that tweet, was a mention to it whatsoever? No, but they won't attack Joe on policies. Elizabeth Warren won't attack Joe on policies, especially when it comes to Venezuela, because her ass is sitting there supporting regime change. Kamala Harris supported 3 strikes. Cory Booker was one of the votes that shot down Bernie's bill on pharmaceutical, on prescriptions to help old people out to get, okay? So let's be honest over here. When it comes to policy, and that's the only thing that should matter, Tulsi
actions over words, absolutely. And let it be clear, again, that the people who are calling Tulsi a racist, who are saying she's done, and a lot of these are Bernie people, not all of them, a lot of them are Warren people. I think that you are jumping the gun and you're being a hypocrite because, again, she made a bad tweet. Bernie has made multiple tweets like that, and nobody is leaving him and telling him that they're not going to support him anymore, that he's canceled. I think if we're going to be fair, we need to apply that across the board. Okay, there's that universality thing. We need to apply that across the board and be fair and say, if you're not going to cancel Bernie over that, if he still has some policies you support, then by all means, that's fine. But you can't do that to Tulsi. And a lot of these people have been waiting for Tulsi to mess up on something so they can be like, I told you so. And it's just like, no, that's just not the case. It's a very unfair thing to do.
Let's get some hellos and some shots out there. Money Train James says, Tulsi lost me with that dumb junk. Were you there in the first place, Money Train James? How about Jake Foray? Jake. Used to work with Jake, works with me now.
Hi, Jake.
Jake is in a play. Jake is awesome.
Jake, we'll have to see your play. Let us know when the times are.
Hey, Jake, by the way, we did good last night in the tip pool. I underestimated what I made. We did a lot more, so it was a really good night. It's going to really help us out. Jake has been working a lot of day shifts. He's had to give up night shifts to make a sacrifice for his art. And Jake, you keep on doing it because... I hear
good things about that play, by the way.
We're
I saw
hearing
it on Instagram.
sold out, Instagram. A creation breeds creation, Jake. So when you do your creation, when you do your art, you're helping people expand and use a part of their brain. It's called abstract thinking. For me, art is just as important as hospitals. I know it sounds kind of funny, but it's the way we think, and going down the rabbit hole, we got to be there. Unknown Space, Pioneer, thank you for joining on in. Paul Gambling, of course, we want to say hi to a couple people on Nico's MCSC network. Chektow Warrior, we said hi to you before. Jason Walsh, Russia did it. I agree with you. This is fucking Russia all over again. Joe Snake 100. They're going to attack Tulsi in that debate. She better come ready. Listen,
I'm sure she's ready.
We keep on talking about the rope-a-dope fam, and I told you, Muhammad Ali was stripped of the world title because he refused to go off to Vietnam and fight. He said he refused to go off to another war and kill other poor people. He will not do it. They stripped him of his title. Then eventually he made his way back. He fought Joe Frazier and lost. Joe Frazier then lost the belt to George Foreman. Now, George Foreman, a young George Foreman, not the Gary Coleman grill, the George Foreman grill, was this big, powerful young guy who used to knock people out with one punch. Muhammad Ali gets a title fight with him in Africa. And they asked Muhammad Ali, and this is weeks leading up to the fight, just like we're leading up to this debate. What you going to do, Muhammad Ali? I'm going to float like a butterfly. I'm going to sting like a bee. In other words, he was saying he's going to dance. Everybody thought he was going to use his footwork and dance around him and dance around Joe and try to get him that way. But he didn't. He came out and he used a tactic called the rope-a-dope. And Joe was not prepared for it. And later on in the later rounds, Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay knocked out George Foreman. Tulsi Gabbard is doing the rope-a-dope. Show him the rope-a-dope, Johnny.
He did.
Did you show him? Yeah. He showed the rope-a-dope. He did a dancing and whatnot, and it really caught him off guard. And what Tulsi did here, the timing of it, because we were saying, right, Johnny? What was the mentality of Tulsi doing this? Why would she do this now? What was she thinking? She said,
I think it was an emotional thing.
I don't know.
It doesn't seem like as I don't know. Some thought to it, of course.
Because there's a lot of
Tulsi.
people.
She always thinks it through, but
the Joe Rogan people, the people who support Tulsi, and she listens to them. They're sick and tired of censoring speech.
No one's saying
they're
you're
sick
censoring
and tired
this,
of that.
fam. No one's
you know what
censoring
I'm saying?
this.
No. I'm just saying that's why she maybe have done this, because she's going to have the nuanced conversations and she's going to talk about these things regardless
she chose
if it's
a
uncomfortable
hell of
or
a
not.
subject in Joe Biden right now. Though, like, he's literally hated by the majority of people. It's just like
I understand
it's just
that.
tactically to me a wrong move.
He does have a lot of votes, and they have to go somewhere after. And once again,
I think he has way less than we think.
I'm telling you this, fam, right now. Yes, there's a part of me that says there was a little insensitivity to black people in the past, people of color in the past, with this, whatnot. It could have been done better. But the overall tweet itself, what's that?
Johnny says he
Johnny
shouldn't
said
have
you have
used
Biden. Okay, but the overall sensing arching message, she's right. And you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go donate to Tulsi Gabbard because I feel strongly about it. And Tulsi, go get him. Knock him out, Muhammad Ali style.
I hope she, comes strong against Elizabeth Warren, because I think Warren is Bernie's main adversary, and I think Elizabeth Warren is one that people are choosing second to Tulsi or to Bernie. So
we're getting the wheel here.
Yeah.
It's time to get out, fam.
Yep.
It's nice to have a conversation where we don't agree on a lot of things.
Yeah,
right?
you guys. Yeah, we were really civil because earlier I wanted to punch him in the face, but just so you guys know.
We got Rocky Bellinger's address. When the shirt comes in, we're gonna get you a big one, Rocky. We want you to have space, and we want a good picture of you out there in Wyoming, I believe. Where's he from? Montana, Wyoming? No, he's from Montana, Wyoming.
Rocky,
yeah,
where
Rocky's
are you from?
out somewhere. He's out there hanging out and beating up. He's still looking for Dick Cheney to beat his ass, but Dick Cheney keeps avoiding him.
If you guys want me to punch pasta, I
Don't
can.
say that.
So,
Okay, so one last quick question, fam. I have a question for you, and I want you to tell me. And I want the audience to guess. Johnny, you look at the MCSC network, and I'll look at Facebook. We'll find the right answer. Somebody made a good point. Talking to your microphone so we can hear you. Okay, so somebody made a good point. Tulsi did it to shake off the bandwagoners. Who said that?
Is that even
Moss.
even if that were true?
Moss.
Even if that were true, that's not a smart move because that's still support. So
Okay, fam, I have a
think
question
that's
for
a
you.
good point.
What's your favorite Mexican breakfast? We live in LA. We have Mexican breakfast. Fam, let's take a look. Everybody hit the thing. What is Fam's favorite Mexican breakfast here? Come on now. Come on. Anybody got any guesses over here? Anybody? Favorite Mexican breakfast?
Do I even know what my favorite breakfast is?
I know what it is because I
No,
make
you
it for you all the
don't.
time.
No, you don't. You think you know, but you don't.
Does anybody got an answer? Favorite Mexican breakfast? He's from Michigan. Gabriel says chilaquiles.
Oh my God, Gabriel!
On the first shot,
Holy
Gabriel
shit!
Ramirez.
Literally.
Wait a second. It's not huevos rancheros?
No. I like chilaquiles a lot.
We got chorizo and eggs. We got huevos rancheros. We got a couple of the.
Damn, Gabriel.
Gabriel Ramirez.
You read mine.
Listen, we're gonna be doing some talks too with Gabriel Ramirez. We got to get you in the studio, Gabriel. He's a delegate. He's gonna eventually, hopefully, be an elected official if that's his goals down the road. I've seen Gabriel Ramirez speak at the ADEMS. I've seen him talk in many meetings, many groups. The guy is just a young, rising star. I want to say within the Democratic Party, but he's definitely an independent thinker, and I look forward to watching him grow. And Gabriel Ramirez, if there's me, Johnny, and Fiorella would love to come to a family get together when there's eating and drinking and all that good stuff and have a great time. So if you let us on in, we love to do it. So we have Wednesday night. We have the debates. Are we going to go tomorrow for a little bit or whatnot?
But yeah, I think we're going to
probably
go
go a little bit tomorrow.
for something. And then Wednesday we have the debate with Lawrence Steiner, as you guys saw.
Yeah, we're
So-
going to. William Moses Somerville will be there
As
with us
well,
too.
yes.
We'll be going live with Kit Cabello and the Hard Lens crew. Daniel Lepper, I believe, will be there as well. Hopefully, everybody will be in attendance. We are hopefully reaching out to Angie Aker. If you don't know who Angie Aker is, she has the tape over her mouth on the Democratic floor of the convention. I think Time Magazine took a big picture. And if you're on the MCSC network right now, go over to the Convo Couch YouTube. We want to say thank you. We had 2 new patrons the other day. Thank you so much. Every dollar helps with us. For Pasta Jardula
And Fiorella Isabel.
Johnny Tsunami.
Convo out.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys.